In this lesson, we're gonna continue with NATRON basics, and we're gonna see a little bit more about how we can customize the interface, and we're gonna learn more about the basic nodes, the starting nodes, which are the viewer and the reader and so on. So just gonna create a new project, but first I wanna open up an existing one. So we saw also the basic features. We are advancing and increasing the level of difficulty little by little. So let's get started with basic things. So we saw we can save. We can also reload a project if we made some changes, and we can also just open recent files. So I'm gonna go in the lesson 2. So in the lesson 2, we exported, and you see you can also create more projects. You can open up more Natron projects at the time, but that's gonna like split the resources. So I want to close here, and sometimes it close everything. So I can also reopen it directly from the Natron project file or NTFP project. So this was the last lesson. So in the last lesson, we saw the output and the write node. So we saw all the process. So how we can, take a file and read it and view it in the viewer. We also bring in different types of media. So we work with images or videos or sequences of images, and then we exported a video file MP4. So all we're gonna do in this video is just, get a little bit more in depth with this information right here. And also we're going to, again, change a little bit the interface using the various panels and like split and divide and dock undock the various panels in the interface. So I can work with multiple media here. I can bring multiple links to multiple media. And now I'm going to move it the toolbar on the left where we have a lot of nodes. And the first one on the top, you're going to have like the basic nodes, which are the read, the write, the viewer. And you can find them on the bottom. So we're going to start talking about nodes later, but this is another way you can access the read and the write, and also you see we have viewer. So you can access it from here and click on read. And I want to bring in another image, but this time I want to also show you the alpha channel. The alpha channel, for those of you who don't know, is a fourth channel together with RGB or red, green, and blue. So red, green, and blue colors are inside any image, but and you can see also up there. So red, green, and blue. And the fourth one, the alpha channel, it's only available on certain types of formats. In this case, PNG. I'm going to choose a PNG which contains an alpha channel, which is a fourth channel for transparency. It's used for transparency. So if I go here, you can see I have some logos. If you don't have a file yet, you can go on the web, just search for a PNG transparent image or like an image without the background and just download it. Otherwise, you can choose a PNG already in your computer. In my case, I have one. And if you don't have it, you can also create one using like GIMP or Photoshop or Pixar or Krita, Canva, whatever graphic design application you have. Now I've done another read, so I have another input source. I have another things that I can pass through the viewer. But right now the viewer is showing me, that other sequence. But what if I want to see also this one here? If I go back again in the toolbar and right now I want to choose viewer, or another way is press tab and type viewer from here. This is a shortcut for any node you want to add. So you can see now we added another viewer. So that's another possibility. To work with multiple projects, you can also work in multiple viewers inside the same project and with multiple files, with multiple read. So I want to connect now this last read that I imported with this new viewer. And again, I can click and drag with the arrow, either from the read node or from the viewer node. I can click and drag, connect the two, and now I can read. Now you can see that this viewer has the same size of the asset that I'm reading. So it's a square logo, and it's 512 pixels. So it's reading the information and bringing them into the viewer. So the viewer right now is having the same format. If I use another image and I bring it in, then you can see now it's reading this other image, and this is full HD, and so it's telling me that it's 1920 times 1080 and HD format. Now up here you have like A, and this is showing you like one source or the other, so you can switch from read 2 or read 4, which are both connected to the viewer 2. And you can also change here different types of, let's say, interaction. So it could be like under or over, or under onion skin, so minus and other stuff. So you can do different operations with two different reads nodes inside same viewer. Like onion skin looks fine. It looks like an overlay logo, which is kind of supposedly what you want to do with the logo. Now let's type here another node in the tab, which is called merge. Now you can see it added with another link, but I want to use this merge node using those two others sources. So I unlink them and then link them directly to the merge node. So shortcut key for merge is M. So if you type M, it's gonna also create the node. And now you can see I can choose here a different result. So I can use in A, I can use the merge one instead of seeing one or the other. And what merge does is showing us both. So it's showing me the NATRON background, the NATRON image background with the logo on top. So it's kind of working with layers here, like we would do in Photoshop or After Effects. And I also have properties for the merge. So I can change also here some different type of operation. So it could be, the logo could be under or could be over, or you can use like saturation or hue and all these other type of interactions. But we're gonna see this later on. I just wanna show you how, again, you can, by changing, like also if I change the sequence, so if I link before the NATRON image and then the logo, I'm gonna have this other result. So it's really important to understand here that you have different possibilities. You can work with multiple viewers, you can work with multiple inputs, and work with other nodes. But again, we're gonna talk about nodes later. Just wanna focus more on the basic things, which are, again, the read, the write, and the viewer, and their properties. So I can continue to create more viewers. You can see this is the third viewer. And now I can link, like, again, different sources into these different viewers. So I want to link the PNG image here, the standard PNG without the background here. But I'm seeing only one viewer right now, which is the viewer 3. But if you look up there, now we can switch from viewer 1 to viewer 2 to viewer 3. So we are capable to see more viewers at a time, and not only in like overlapping panels, but I can also click and drag these panels around. Once I click and drag, they become like floating until I find like a dashed rectangle, which means that I can position that right there. And if I see half of the rectangle, it means it's going to split the view. So you see now I drop that in there together with the properties. So that could be an option, or I can click again and drag it. And here is going to split the screen because I only saw like half of the rectangle. So now I can see both. I can see both viewer 2 and viewer 3 simultaneously. And maybe I can like compare or do something like that, which we're going to see later. And then I'm going to click and drag again with the viewer 1. So right now I'm seeing all three different viewers, and I can perhaps work simultaneously with all the three. So, and we can see the different formats. This one here is HD, so I can see down there the information. This one here is 2000 times 1000, so it's kind of a 2 to 1 proportions or ratio. And the middle one is perfectly square. So we can work with different properties, different settings coming from directly the input format. So when you insert an input, NATRON will try to get the properties of that input. Now also this little button that you see on the top left of each panel, that's also pretty useful. And that's also affecting the interface. So if you click there, you can see I can split also using this. So I can split vertical, I can split horizontal, I can float or undock the panel or palette or view, call it as you want it. And then here, see, I splitted this into two, leaving an empty space that I can use to drop something in there if I want. Or I can go back and close that space, close that extra panel space. Or I can float or undock and can move this around and place it wherever I want. Now, if I have another screen, I can use undocked panels to place them on different screens. I can use 2 or 3 different screens for my desktop if I'm using multiple screens. And I can also try to drop this and dock it somewhere. So perhaps I can bring it there, the node graph. I can close this. And now the dope sheet appeared right here on the left. Now, sometimes things could get messy, but don't worry about that. Just go there and customize however you want, because anytime you can go in layout and restore the default. So don't be afraid to play around and find new solutions for you that you can handle. And perhaps you want to customize this maybe later on when you become more expert. Now we can also save the layout. So I'm gonna save this as custom layout in the NATRON folder. So anytime I can retrieve it. So if I restore now the default, there it is. I'm back to first base. But if I want to retrieve my customized layout that I just exported, I can press import, open it up, and then I'm back into the exported layout. So I can export layout, import layouts, restore layouts. I can also move into tabs in the previous tabs, in the next tab, and so on. So these are, everything you find in the layout is to customize the layout, essentially. Pretty straightforward. So anytime I can restore, and then I'm back on the original situation. Now I can see only one viewer. Now you can see that here I can also close the viewers from the top. Now when I close a viewer from the top, it's also gonna disappear from the node graph. And I can, again, split this vertical, split this horizontal, close the panel, substitute that panel with something else. And again, if I close those viewers, I'm gonna lose them also in the node editor. But I create a new viewer also from here. When I create a new viewer panel from here, it's also gonna appear on the node graph, and it's gonna be empty because nothing is linked yet. So I can close it, I can create another one, create more viewers anytime. And so again, I'm gonna click there on the little icon. You can create a new viewer and then link it. And so that's not gonna be empty anymore. And again, click there. Other things I can do, I can create new panels, like new histogram panel. And histogram is good for color correction, color alteration. I'm gonna see that later on. And then we have the graph editor. We can open up the node graph. So it disappears from the bottom and appears there on the top, and I can bring it back there on the bottom. So you can do that manually and rearrange, as you like. Or let me just show you here. I can proceed. There is the dope sheet, and then there is the properties, which now switched from the right area to the top area. But I can bring it back in there using this other little button for the layout management and customization. And then I have script if I want to use like programming language. I'm going to close this. Or I can, again, bring that properties down here and then bring it back in there just by, clicking and choosing. I can place the progress here if I want to see it. Always control it and monitor it. And I can also anchor this panel. So it's really easy to customize interface here in NATRON. Now I just want to go back to the default because I want to talk about again some basic, really important things that you need to understand. So now we can see this is 8K because this was the previous lesson where I created a customized project format. So I just created a new format from here. And when you create a new format, what you're setting here in the project settings, you are actually applying that to the viewer. Now you need to click sometimes inside the viewer to see the changes like this. So you can see now it's HD because I changed the previous format to a standard HD format. And also project settings, well, it affects the viewer, meaning that it's going to show you that settings here in the viewer and only in the viewer. So the writer could have different settings. So make sure you understand this. It's really important because you can see something in the viewer and then export something which is totally different. Now in the viewer, we have Full HD and we have also frame range from 0 to 100. But in the export phase, in the write phase, I can also change the frame range. I can change the frame rate. I can change anything. So the viewer is not necessarily the same of the writer. So that can change. So I can change the frame rate again, 25. Let's put like 25. And that's it. Now, if you press the S key, it's going to bring up the project settings up to the up in there. If you double click on the writer node, it's going to bring the right node up on the top. So double click the right node to see that on the top. Press S key to open up the viewer settings. Now in the right node, we see that we have project format. Now if you set up that to be project format, is gonna inherit that from the project. If you set fixed format, you can customize it. So you may have like an HD, a full HD format in the project settings and in the viewer, but when you export, you can export to a lower format like the HD ready format. So be careful what you choose here because it's going to override the information that you set up in your project settings. So you need to manage this carefully. The writer, again, or write node, and the project settings. And what else is important here? Well, color space, we saw that previously, and also the frame. So perhaps you don't want to export all the frame, but just one. So you're going to press like 50 and 50 or just 0 to 50 or from 40 to 50 or wherever. Or you can just say project frame range, and that's going to inherit that from the project again. Or the frame rate again. You can reset and get it from the project, or you can override this, making many more, like 50 frame per second or 10. And we already saw that this is going to affect also the speed of the exported format of the exported file. And you can choose if you want alpha channel and other settings. Now we don't have anything actually to export here, so we're going to bring something in, but this was important to understand the difference between the different panels of the interface, the most important panels. So we have write, we have viewer, we don't have read. So if I press W, I can also create another write. So I can write a project with different types of write. I can input more assets using different reads. And I can also use different viewers. Now I'm going to save this as lesson 3. So save project, file, save project. And I'm going to restart from the beginning. Why? Because I want to show you another really interesting thing. So you can see that in the beginning, we have the standard here, Full HD. And I can just go there and change it to 2K or anything else. And we also have a standard frame range, which goes from 1 to 250. And we can also customize this right away. And we can have also a standard frame rate. But once we bring something in, usually NATRON will get the properties from the file that you're going to import. So if I press R to read, R to read, or I can just, create a read node. Well, in that case, let's see what happens. So let me choose a video here, which is the 0 less than MP4. Now it's automatically connected. And if we see now in the viewer, things have changed radically. So the format stayed the same because this is standard Full HD right here. And let's go check here some of the read. So it's going from frame 1 to frame like 200 to 20,000 or something. So which means that this is really long footage. And also we have different frame rate, which is 30. Now, if I go back to project settings, it just automatically rearrange the frame range from 1 to like to 20,000. Now, if I delete that, or if I go back with Control Z, even if I import another thing, so let me just go now in here and read another file, well, it's going to maintain that information. So some of the properties that have been inherited in the moment that I imported, they're just going to be there. So let me just import like one image, a standard image here from this sequence. So you see here, I cannot, yeah, there you go. Just gonna select one. Now you see that still the frame range is really long, is 20,000. So basically, when you import the first file, some of the project um, or the viewer settings, they're gonna remain. So be careful, you may want to change that. In the read, we don't have any problem. You have first frame 1, last frame 1, so we don't have any problem in there. But here in the viewer, we don't need so many frames because we're working just with a single image. So that's an example. Be careful on monitoring, managing, controlling, organizing those parameters in the project settings, which means in the viewer and also in the read and in the write. Now you can see if I restart, if I create a new project, everything is going to go back to the original. Now I want to bring in again this sequence, which was like something not standard. So this one here is 2000 times 1000, which is not an actual format. Now, if I want, I can create a new format out of these imported new formats. So if I click on new format, I can copy from the viewer one. So that's going to create, you see here, a new one, which is going to be 2000 times 1000. So I can, again, create a new customized format, and I can get it from the viewer one, copy from viewer one. Or I can override that with an actual standard format. Now, I can read this and I can write. So type W if you want to create a write node. And now let's export. Instead of exporting a video, which we already did in another lesson, I want to export a sequence of images. So I'm going to select an image file, which could be JPEG, could be PNG. Now, JPEG will not have the alpha channel. So this sequence has the alpha channel, but if you don't want it, you can just export JPEG. And if you go in the right, you see the format type again can be the project format, or could be the input format, which now are the same because we created the project format based on the input format. Or we can do a fixed format, which could be something totally different, like HD or Full HD. Let's do HD ready. So you see the values that in there. And also I can override with the writer. I can override everything. I can override the frame range. And I want to create a folder. Create a new folder when you're exporting not one single frame, but multiple frames, because there are going to be a lot of frames in there. So exporting a sequence of images could be overwhelming if you don't create a folder. Don't export it, for example, in your desktop. You're going to create a mess. Try to export it into a specified folder, which I just created with a new folder button. And actually, I want to save a PNG here. So we also have the alpha channel. Now, if I click on render, and again, you can change the frame range. Don't use the project frame range. And also, it's giving us a problem. Let's see what's happening. So if I render this just with the simple name, so it's going to render each single frame of this specific animation, which is about 100 frames. But then the next frame is going to override the next, and then the next, and then the next. And so you're going to be left with just one single frame because all the others have been like overwritten. Now to avoid this, let's check the properties. You can see the properties here are 2000 and 1000 because we didn't change here the format type. So let's make this now HD ready. So make sure that that's actually staying in there. And also double click on the right and change here the folder, in the folder, the name. So instead of saving test02 PNG, I want to save as test02 with the hashtag sign, which in your keyboard, you should find it in your keyboard. It's like a special character. So in my keyboard, it's near the shift key on the right. So there it is. It's a little hashtag. And I want to get rid of the number there. So it's going to be test hashtag, which means that it's going to automatically number all the frames. So if I export this again, if I render this again, let's see the final result. So again, I'm going to navigate. Once it's finished, of course, the process, I'm going to navigate into the folder. And you can see now we have each single frame. And if I right click, go to the properties, I can see that in the details, this is full HD, HD ready, not the specific format anymore. And we have all the single frames, and we have the alpha channel. So we can also use NATRON just to convert files. We can convert them, to resize them, or to change their frame rate or frame range or whatever. So this will be all for this lesson. If you enjoyed, please subscribe to the channel to stay updated. If you want to support us, thank us, please join the channel as a supporter. Thanks for watching. See you in the next.